You are listening to WBGU 88.1 FM, home of the Falcon Media Sports Network.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Zig Zone, Falcon Media's flagship sports radio show. I'm your host, Holden Ruck from the Falcon Media Sports Network, and as always, I'm joined by a room of phenomenal analysts also from the Falcon Media Sports Network. Lucas Kleinmeyer with me. Lucas, how are we doing today?
I'm doing much better than I was last Sunday, so that's a positive in itself, and it's finally starting to become spring. I'm done with winter, so...
We'll count it. We got Ben Korak in the room. Ben, how we doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Good weekend for softball. Still not over. The hockey lost 2 weeks ago, but life goes on, I guess.
Henry Costco in the room. Henry, how are you?
I'm doing good, but not as good as BGSU softball. First MAC series sweep since April of 2022. So
big time for them. And last but certainly not least, fresh out of Stellar Field, Tyler, how we doing?
Well, I'm here. Tough past few games for baseball, but glad to be back on the show again.
Start of the weekend, it looked like it might be a little more fun for you today, but kind of a decline Saturday and Sunday. It's March, and so we're definitely into March Madness. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, even though none of the Falcons are in the dance. But right now, we're going to go right into baseball because that's where the real madness is happening for BG. So, Tyler, why don't you recap us on the weekend series against Kent State?
Yeah, before I go into Kent State winning the series, I want to just talk about the 11-game winning streak that the Falcons went on.
No.
Because... All right, thank you guys for having me on the show. It's been nice being back on.
Let's talk about now.
That hurt my ears.
No, but when you look back on it, BGSU baseball is the oldest sport program on campus here. Why is that going to laugh out of bed?
Oldest sport program.
I don't know.
Right there. Oldest sport program ever.
But when you think about that, you think about this team has been around since the 1910s, and they've only gone on an 11-game winning streak 6 times in program history. And that's something that they did this year. Like even last year when they went on a 17-game conference winning streak, they only won a max of 7 games consecutively across conference and non-conference games last year. And that was a team that won a MAC regular season championship. So for this team to start to have an 11-game winning streak, 6-time in program history, to start 7-0 in MAC play for I believe it was just the 3rd time in program history that they did that. It was an incredible accomplishment. 7 of their 11 wins during that streak were by 2 runs or less. They still have a winning record when trailing after the 6th and the 7th innings. So really just a miraculous run by the team over the past few weeks. A little different this weekend, though. A little tough this weekend. They had a big comeback win on Friday. I believe the final score of that one was 11-10. And you had TJ Tackett's walking it off on an error by Ripken Reese, Kent State's second baseman, that scored Gunnar Antillion from second. That was a big comeback win for the Falcons. Scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th to win it. Then you go to Saturday, and they had a chance to tie the program record for longest winning streak against all D1 and D2 opponents. And they lost 20-4 against Kent State in 7 innings. Kind of an eye-opener. Kent State jumped on them, and Bowling Green Bats went silent, and that was the end of that. A 14-run inning by the Golden Flashes. They got 10 hits in 1 inning against Falcons, and baseball kind of flipped on them there. And then today was, I'd say, a tougher loss than yesterday was, because this Bowling Green team is not beating Kent State in a season series since 2012. It's been a long time. And they were in the position to possibly strike in the bottom of the 9th again. They had them tied up going into the 9th, and Kent State hit a 3-run home run against Connor Penrod after a couple of errors. And, that's the game, 9-7. Bowling Green only scores 1 at the bottom of the 9th. So I think it's going to serve as a wake-up call, though, to this team. And head coach Kyle Halleck kind of, post-game is hoping that it's going to do the same. Baseball is baseball, and you're going to have these kind of things. This team's not in any trouble by any means. They're still on the top of the MAC standings. Now it is 7-2 in the MAC, so they're not in any trouble by any means. We'll just have to see how this team responds to adversity. Just the second time this season that they've lost multiple games in a row.
And it's something that you look at, when you see a team streaking as they did 11 games in a row, rarity for the program, almost not something we came to expect, but after a season as impressive as last year's, it didn't come as like a complete shock when they started tearing off win after win after win. But at the same time, you almost have to expect to come down to earth in the way they did, I think.
I just think the pain for this team right now is that it came against Kent State. You have a couple things going with that. One, we mentioned that you haven't beaten Kent State in a season series in 13 years. That's a long time to keep losing a season series to a team over and over and over. And you think about the end of the 17-game conference winning streak last year. If everyone remembers correctly, we lost to Ohio to end that streak. But we still beat Ohio in the series. The first season MAC series loss that we had last year came against Kent State. So for the second year in a row, Kent State is the first MAC team to defeat Bowling Green in a conference series, which I think just stings even more for this team. And after the game, it's probably the most angry that I've seen Kyle Halleck in my 3 years here. And he just flat out said that he's not going to hide away from it anymore. He's pissed off of losing against Kent State, and that they just need to find a way to beat them. So, pretty raw from him. Some of the, just flat out putting it out there that he's, he hasn't beaten Kent State since he's become head coach here. And it's not something that he's enjoyed. So for some reason, Kent State continues to be the boogeyman for Bowling Green baseball. And we'll see how the team rebounds going forward.
And it's something we touched on briefly before we went on the air as well. Certainly can't feel any better also knowing that it's the program that he was a player and a quite accomplished player.
Yeah, he won't come out and say that. That's not something he's going to make a focus, but it's definitely something that we all know is part of the reason why he is so mad at continuing to lose to this team. Because it is his alma mater. It's someone that he doesn't want to keep losing to. And Kent State has a very good historically very good program. Their coach is a 4-time MAC Coach of the Year, Jeff Duncan, and they continue to show why they're one of the best teams in the MAC year after year after year after year. So we'll see. I mean, there's definitely a chance that these two teams meet in the MAC tournament at the end of the year. I think that'd be a really fun matchup. Time will have to tell if these two teams cross paths again, or if we have to wait to see Bowling Green head to Kent next year and battle them in a series.
And one note that also just probably makes it more frustrating, at least from my own perspective, is looking at the current baseball standings for the MAC. It's, still obviously very early, but it's not like you're losing to somebody who's, sitting before today tied at the top of the MAC with only one loss. Kent State is currently in 6th.
Yeah, I mean, it's early. They came in, though, 2-1 in conference play. I think, what are they now, 4-2 in conference play? They'll be in the MAC tournament by the end of the year. They'll be one of the top 4 seeds. I'm pretty sure of that. You can clip that up and play it when they're not, I'm sure. But they're going to be a good program this year. They have all the pieces to be a good program this year, as does Bowling Green. So this was, in my opinion, probably 2 of the top 3 or 4 teams in the MAC facing each other at Stellar Field this weekend.
So let's talk a little bit more about them actually facing each other this weekend. What went in, what pieces built into the win on Friday, and then, kind of a not catastrophic as in it's a huge deal, but I mean a pretty large margin of loss yesterday, and then not taking care of it today. What were the keys? Yeah,
the win on Friday, I think, was just kind of the late game magic that this Bowling Green team had been running on. They were trailing. They were tied after the 6th inning, and they were trailing after the 7th inning, and they found a way to win once again. It was kind of the prototypical win for this Bowling Green team during that 11-game winning streak, where they kind of go down early and then rebound. Kent was up. Let me do quick math here. 6-2. They were up after the 7th inning, 10-9 over Bowling Green. So the Falcons then scored 1 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th, and shut out Kent in the final 2 innings. You look at the pitchers at the end of that game. Nate Kress was phenomenal down the stretch for Bowling Green. 2 1/3 scoreless innings, walked 2 batters, but struck out 2. One concerning note was that DJ Newman only got you 2 innings pitched to start. And there is some concern about, health with DJ Newman pitching. He continued to bat throughout the rest of the series. We'll have to see if he pitches on Friday against Central Michigan. That'll be interesting to see what his availability is like. But then you had the guys that you expect to get production out of producing on Friday. TJ Tackett goes 3 for 5, game-winning hit. Technically, it's an error over at second by Ripken Reese. 3 for 4, Garrett Wright is at the plate, drives in 2 runs. But it was really great to see the production at the bottom of the lineup on Friday. That's kind of the story underneath the story. Gavin Gannon, batting 8th, goes 2 for 5, drives in 3 runs. Even though he strikes out 3 times, he starts off the game slow, rebounds late in the game. And Gunnar Antelian, batting 9th, goes 2 for 5 with 3 runs scored. So those 2 guys were really key in setting the table for the top of the lineup to be able to produce like they normally do.
Certainly nice to be able to lean on the entirety of the depth of the lineup contributing as opposed to just 1 or 2 crucial guys. Talking a little more about like the pitching situation, how concerned are you in a preliminary reactionary sense looking at not only limited pitching from DJ Newman this weekend, but also considering maybe lackluster production on the mound from some of the other pitchers this weekend?
I'm not concerned at all about the bullpen. I think the bullpen's in great shape. I think it's a lot deeper than it was last year. I think they have a good rotation of probably four or 5 high leverage arms that they can look to at any moment. The starters are interesting because DJ Newman, he's great when he's available. He just, over the past 2 years, historically, has not been the most available starting pitcher. He's dealt with some injuries. Can't really say for sure what happened on Friday, if that was an injury, if that was high pitch count, if that was something else that they pulled him out of the game for, discomfort. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I think this team can still win without Newman starting. It just makes it a little harder because Newman's just such a good starter on Fridays. Nick Good, I'm not that concerned about. The stat line looks awful for him on Saturday.
He got shelled. 4 innings, 10 earned runs.
Yes.
I mean, that's being shelled.
Let me go through the process. Thank you very much. So on Saturday, it really was one blow-up inning. It was the big blow-up inning for Nick Good. He was great before that. 6 straight strikeouts at one point for Nick Good. His stuff looked as good as it has, no pun intended, at any point this season, I think I can say. It was just the one blow-up inning, and that's when his pitch count got high. And that was kind of, I think, strategy for Halleck because he had to go deeper into the bullpen than he wanted to on Friday because Newman only gave him 2 innings as a starter. So he left Nick Good out there for 80, 90 pitches when Good was obviously gassed. In a normal situation, he would have been pulled out probably around the 4 to 6 run mark that he allowed. So that 10 is a little inflated number. I think it was a solid start before that last inning that got blown up that he normally would not pitch in. So you can put an asterisk next to that one. That's just an interesting scenario that he was in. And then Landon Williman, I still think, has been probably the most consistent starter for Bowling Green this season. His ERA is at 4.50 this year. Only allowed 2 earned runs today in 3 innings. He hasn't really had a bad start this year. Maybe one. I'm trying to think against Akron. I think that was a little bit of a blow up. But overall, he's been pretty consistent. A guy that's going to get you 3 to 5 innings every start. He'll punch out a few guys. He's only going to allow 2 to 4 runs every start. Doesn't really have many flare up starts. So you look at those 3. I think the one silver lining Bowling Green has is that they still have other options as starters. Carson Silva continues to develop as a freshman. We'll see what he's like at the end of the year. Ty Roeder, we haven't seen start yet, can start. He did start some at Wright State last year, so he can get you a few innings and a start if you decide to go that way. Jacob Turner, who's also a high leverage arm for you in the bullpen, has also been a midweek, maybe earlier in the year, more of a Sunday starter for Bowling Green. So you got 3 guys out of the bullpen there that you can use as starters. So depth-wise at starter, I'm not that concerned. Performance-wise, I think it has been a little rockier than you would have hoped to begin this year.
Understandable. I want to pivot a little bit, talk a little less about pitching. A player that's stuck out for a number of reasons recently to me is Garrett Wright, which I think comes as no surprise to anyone. And firstly, I want to touch on what I think is possibly the funniest stat that I've seen, that he's now the hit by pitches career leader in BGSU program history with 33 as a sophomore. I think that's so funny.
I think it's kind of a crazy record to have, right? Out of any record as a sophomore, you get that. And that's the crazy thing. He's only a sophomore and he's been hit by 33 pitches. TJ Blannon got hit by 32 in 4 years, from 2007 to 2010. And Garrett Wright has already passed them midway through his sophomore year. But that's kind of just the player he is. He just crowds the plate, does not move out of the way of pitches, and then is a guy who has a high on-base percentage because he is a patient hitter. He's a good hitter, and he doesn't move out of the way of those pitches that get some free bases. And he's been probably, him or DJ Newman have been your most consistent hitters this year. You could throw Brady Birchmeyer into that. TJ Tackett is working his way there. But he's been a constant guy there in the number 2 hole for Bowling Green this year, having an even better season than he did last year when he was named MAC Freshman of the Year. The one thing that's gone up for him is his strikeout numbers a little bit. That's become expected, though, because it's a trade-off for power. We've seen a lot more power from Garrett Wright this season. His batting average is higher than last year, and his on-base percentage is higher than last year right now, too. So he's having a phenomenal season for Bowling Green.
Tell me a little bit more about his impact, the things he's been doing in the field, because Kyle Halleck's been kind of deploying him in interesting ways.
Yeah, today he started at third base for the first time in his career, kind of reminiscent of what his brother Trey did at Toledo. His brother at Toledo started as a catcher and played a lot at third base. So Garrett Wright, I talked to him after the, I believe, Purdue-Fort Wayne game, and he's also been a corner outfielder guy, and he said that growing up he did play a lot of outfield. So that kind of explains why he was moved to that for some this year. I think it's been a strategy by Halleck, I think, to limit the stress that he has as a catcher, game in, game out. That's being a catcher every game is a lot on your body. That's a tough position to play in baseball. So what you've seen Halleck do is play 2 or all 3 catchers in the field at once. So you'll have some days you'll have 2 corner outfielders that are catchers and 1 behind the plate. Today it was Cooper McKenzie behind the plate, Garrett Wright over at third. So the versatility that all 3 of those catchers have, Garrett Wright included, is a luxury for this Bowling Green team because they're all such good athletes that they can all play those different positions. Moving Garrett Wright to third base was interesting today. He had the first one that was hit at him. He tried to dive at it, tried to slide at it. I think he was a little hesitant going at the ball. I don't know that Garrett Sloan, who normally plays third, makes the play anyway, so it was a tough play to try to make. He fielded everything great, except for one that was shot at him that kind of skied 10 feet in the air after hitting his glove or his foot or something. But overall, he looked fine at third base because he has a catcher's arm to be able to throw across the diamond. His arm is really strong enough. So, it's been very interesting to see how the catcher used Garrett Wright, especially because the crazy thing is you can make the argument he's the best defensive catcher in the MAC. He was named MAC All-Defensive Team as a catcher as a freshman, and now you're seeing him be moved to 4 different positions in the field to begin this year. It kind of speaks to how versatile of a player he really is. And he's a guy that I think if he continues on this trajectory, he's a guy that's going to fall in the steps of Nathan Archer and get drafted as a Falcon.
Now, you kind of mentioned the catchers being implemented in different ways in the field in general. Do you feel like there is a strong tendency across positions for Kyle Halleck to get experimental with the team?
Oh, I think so. I think he does it probably more than the normal baseball coach. You've seen Gavin Gannon, who played in left field today, was mainly the right fielder last year and has played some first base this year. Sam Seidel can play for second and short. You've seen Alex Laird, who comes off the bench, play third and short. Caden Parker can play either corner outfield position. TJ Tackett can play center field or first base. DJ Newman can play outfield. They just use him as a designated hitter. they have a lot of versatility on this roster to move pieces around, and Kyle Halleck is kind of just playing chess with them, moving around to how he sees fit each game. So that definitely has been helpful for this Bowling Green team, and it's paid off. The past 2 years, the Falcons have set their program record on fielding percentage, and I don't know where it is after the past 2 games, because they have committed a few errors the past 2 games, but coming into the weekend series, they were on pace to break the program record for the 3rd straight year in fielding percentage.
Let's look ahead a little bit. Next on the schedule for the Falcons, they will play Youngstown State at home on Tuesday. What do you look for there? I know it's a non-conference game that always fails to wow me a little bit, to be honest. But what do you see there?
Youngstown State's not a great baseball program. I don't think the result is the most important thing in that game. I think you just need to see more of the things that you want to see out of this team. You want to see a long start from your starter. It depends on who we throw, too. If you go Carson Sova or one of those freshman arms, or if they go a more experienced guy in that start. I think Halleck talked about it post-game. He wants to see this team get back to what they're good at. Because I think, they won't say it, but going on an 11-game win streak and then losing it is a little bit of a morale dump just for a game or two.
Naturally, I think.
Yeah, I just think it's something that sits in the back of your head there. Like, we'll go to the NBA. Look at the Cavs. They were on, a 17-game winning streak. They've lost 4 in a row. Like, this happens to pro teams, too. This isn't just the college thing. It's just the mental struggle. So I think Tuesday can serve as a really good reset, being a non-conference game, that the team can be looser out there because they're just naturally going to be tighter and more tense during these conference matchups. So should be a win for Bowling Green on Tuesday. Should be a looser game where they can kind of get back to the success that they were having before and be a natural reset going into Central Michigan in the weekend, which I think Central Michigan will also be key in terms of building momentum back for this team, because I think that is a series that they can very easily sweep. Central Michigan, for 40 years, was one of the most consistent programs in the MAC. Ever since their head coach left a couple of years ago, they have been one of the most consistently bad programs in the MAC. So that's going to be a big series for Bowling Green to get their success back.
And even so, it's interesting. Central Michigan currently 9-14 overall record, so pretty mediocre in that regard, but a more solid conference topping record right now.
Last year was their worst overall record, I want to say, in like 40-something years.
Wow.
Because they had built up, they just had been one of the most consistent programs in the MAC, kind of like what Kent State is. They were just always atop the MAC. So Central Michigan had 17 wins last season. It was the fewest in a full season for them since 1961.
Wow.
So that they were picked third to finish. They were picked third in the MAC preseason poll last year too. Safe to say they weren't picked that high this year. So that is a series that Bowling Green has a very good chance at getting another sweep at.
And I think the stats looking at it now are misleading. They're at 5-1 in the MAC, tied atop with their .833 percentage for conference play, but it came against Ohio, where they took 2 out of 3, and Northern Illinois, where they swept, and those two programs are
and NIU also one of the consistently worst, and Ohio's a team that Bowling Green swept earlier in the year. So
second and third to last in the conference currently, so definitely not powerhouses by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, that's one of those just, you'll get that early on in conference play. Those weird things like that.
Makes sense. What do you expect? What is your own prediction to come out of the series? How do you think they're going to finish against Central Michigan if you had to?
I think they sweep Central. I think they have everything they need to sweep Central. You hope that Garrett Wright is good to go by then. He left midway through today's game. I believe he left around the 5th inning. He dove for a foul ball, and looked like he got a little shaken up by it. And I think he also hit a ball off his foot while batting in one of his later at-bats. So Didn't get a specific injury that he had, but Halleck's postgame said he's day-to-day on see how he feels tomorrow. So I don't know if we should expect to see him against Youngstown State, but I think he should be good to go for Central, which would be big. There's a few guys that I think can really break out against Central when you look at it. Brady Birchmeyer had a really quiet week after, I should say, a really quiet conference series. After winning the MAC Co-Offensive Player of the Week, he only had, I think, 3 hits in the series against Kent State. DJ Newman was also a little quiet overall, only had 2 hits against Kent State. One of them was a home run. And TJ Tackett's was quiet in the conference series. He was great midweek. But those are 3 guys that I think if they can really get it going against Central, it's going to be the key to success for them. And you just need length out of your starting pitching. It is going to be the end-all, be-all for the success this season, and not just the Central series, because what Bowling Green did during their 11-game winning streak of coming back in nearly every single one of those games and winning close games, baseball as a sport just will not allow you to do that every single game. That's just not something that you're going to be able to keep up throughout a 50-56 game schedule. So it's going to be interesting to see how long the starters can go in that Central Michigan series.
One other thing that I want to touch on, and it's backtracking a little bit to something we talked about earlier with Kyle Halleck's propensity for shaking up the lineup a little bit. You also mentioned the tendency for the team to play a little bit looser, a little more relaxed potentially in like a non-conference, and then tighten up, be more focused because it does carry more weight when they're playing a conference team. Do you feel like that is the best time for him to be experimenting? I know it's fairly early in the regular season still, but when you're in those contests that do matter, I mean, infinitely more than the Youngstown matchup, it makes you wonder a little bit if is now really the time to be
something I've learned about Kyle Halleck is that I can't really come into a game expecting what he's going to do, because he usually does the opposite. I remember when they were on that 17-game conference winning streak last year against Ohio, came to the ballpark one day, and it was a doubleheader. First game was, normal lineups. The second game, he basically moved everyone to a different position, and they still won the game. Something that I've picked up on with this team the past couple of years is that, one, a lot of these guys are versatile. He's able to move these guys up and down the lineup into different positions, and their success really hasn't dropped off, whether it be non-conference games or conference games. So I don't know how much it really is him experimenting with things as it is him just switching things up to try to, put the best team out there to get the best success, whether it's matchups or whether it's giving this guy a little bit of a break physically from playing this tougher position and putting him out there. I think everything he does has a rhyme for its reason, and he's definitely not afraid to do it in conference play or non-conference play. So I think it's just something that comes with being a Kyle Halleck coach team here in Bowling Green.
So less of a gimmick and more really ironing out where they can maximize the strengths. Okay.
It's more just kind of what I've seen from his overall strategy. It's just something that he does.
Makes sense. I got you.
Yeah.
Tyler, where can we look ahead? What can we look forward to in terms of coverage for this next week? We got Youngstown State, like I said, at home on Tuesday, and then at Central Michigan this Friday, Saturday, and next Sunday.
Yeah, I know we'll have recaps of all those games on bgfalconmedia.com. We'll have a broadcast on WBGU 88.1 FM for the Youngstown State game on Tuesday. That's a 3 p.m. start, so pregame about 2:45 for that one. Not sure if we're going to have a broadcast up at Central Michigan. If we do, it's probably for only one of those games. So stay tuned to the BG_FMSN Twitter X account for updates on that.
We'll keep up on that, see if the Falcons can bounce back from a mildly disappointing end to their long winning streak on the baseball diamond. And now we're going to pivot over because softball is taking leaps and bounds beyond anything that they were able to do last year, as I'm sure we've hammered home enough. We got Henry Costco and Ben Korak both in the studio here, our softball co-beats, to talk about it. And Henry, I saw you adjusting your mic. You look ready to go. So take me through what's been going on with softball.
Yeah, 4 in 1 week. this week, I would just like to say better record than baseball this week. 4-1 for softball, 3-2 for baseball. Yeah, no comment from Tyler on that one.
I mean, I'll comment if you want me to. I mean, what's the overall record again?
Boring.
What's the standing in the MAC again?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Anyways,
You can mute
continue
yourself now. Yeah, so 4-1 record. Started off on Tuesday with a split 6-1 win in Game 1, 3-2 loss, or 3-2 loss in Game 2 against Green Bay, and then came in against a Kent State team that struggled this year. They had the worst team ERA in the MAC. They are now 0-6 in MAC play, and they took care of business. Swept those Golden Flashes, 10-2 win in 6 innings on Friday, and then back-to-back victories, starting with Delaney Davis walk-off on Friday, Game 2, in a 7-6 victory there, and then a 9-7 win on Saturday. All those games, the win was a big factor. We saw, Ben, what was the error total on Saturday? Can you remember?
I think it was 8 total errors on Saturday.
Eight for BG, I think.
A lot of like throwaway errors, I'd say. Not many that. A couple of them resulted in runs, but just little league throwing the ball away type stuff. Gardner said it wasn't. She said and made it sound like it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. Like it was just that one game. They were just taking it back a little bit with that. I mean, you can attest to this. I don't think we've seen any bad defense all season up until that one game. Really, it was just that one outlier and errors.
Yeah, I mean the team, they're making up for the absence of Cameron Kaufman at the shortstop position. She's still day-to-day. They're hoping to have her back for this upcoming weekend series against Ball State, but they've had to adjust the infield a lot here and there. Katie Hutter had some troubles. She was pretty good all week, honestly, up until Saturday. She had some troubles, and then she got hit in the helmet with a ball and a hit by pitch that just kind of ultimately sent her out of the game. It was not her day, but other than that, they've been pretty solid all week. They had some troubles against Buffalo, which was kind of ultimately their demise in that series, but they really cleaned it up, and that was the reason why they earned 3 of those first 4 victories this week. But a lot of standout performers for this team. Ben, is there anyone you want to start with?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Athlete of the Week. Addie Martin played fantastic this weekend again. She's she started very well, one of the best hitters on the team, then fell into a little bit of a slump toward the end of non-conference. Now she's picking it back up again. I think coming into yesterday, she was somewhere in the realm of like 10 for 14 or something like that, with a couple of bombs, a ton of RBIs. It looks like in the Kent State series alone, she had 11 at-bats. How many hits is that? 5 hits and 11 at-bats. Looks like 5 runs scored as well and 2 RBIs, batting in the 2-hole. I mean, she's been fantastic. She's got speed to go along with it. 2 stolen bases on the second game on Friday. Just absolutely fantastic player. Stepped into a big role at shortstop as well, a tough position to play in the softball world. And she plays fantastic shortstop. I think she made 1 error on the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Understandable considering she's playing out of position. She just played great. I was very impressed with how she's played, and she's making a bid at one of the best players in the MAC as well.
Yeah, 11 for 19 this week, 2 home runs in Game 1 against Green Bay. She also has had 5 RBIs, 8 runs on the week, so a lot of the offense has been courtesy of her. Now 10 home runs on the year. That's top 5 in the MAC, and she has just as many home runs as a player right now as Kent State has right now, tied 10, and then she has 4 more than a couple other programs here in the MAC, so she's having a fantastic year coming up. Redshirt freshman who's really just stood out for this squad. She hasn't been the only offensive player who's really impressed, especially this year. We've talked about, Ben and I on our broadcast, about Taylor Barrett, Hannah Hunt, Katie Hutter, these players that are leading the top of this lineup who were hitting under 200 or close to it last year, and they've just completely turned it around. And
yeah, I mean, just looking at stats right now, Peyton Steffes is now the 4th highest registered batter, and considering at the start of non-conference play, she was 6th or 7th. She was batting in the 7-hole for a while there, and especially in the Buffalo series, is batting pretty low, and she's been as hot as can be with the bat in her hand. So impressive stuff from Steffes as well, playing right field.
Yeah, hitting just over 300 now. She was hitting close to 200, near 220 headed into MAC play, so she's really turning it around. I know she had 7 hits last week, and she's been close to that mark. I believe she had 6 this week, and it hasn't just been her. It's been Hunt, 352 batting average, Barrett hitting 363. I mentioned Martin hitting 348, and then Katie Hutter, who had a tough weekend this weekend, is still hitting 284 with an OPS near 850. And then Delaney Davis had an outstanding weekend. We mentioned
6 for 6.
6 for 6. She hit the walk-off in Game 2 on Friday, which really kind of propelled her into the starting lineup on Saturday, and she capitalized in, pretty much any way she could, hitting 3 for 4. She played good defense out there in left field, considering the 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts that they were dealing with out there. And I think, she had some trouble. I think a lot of people expected her to be in the starting lineup, considering the youth of the outfield. We saw Hannah Massaro really kind of take that left field spot, but Massaro struggled recently, hitting 185, and Delaney Davis has just kind of taken over that spot, and we saw Massaro get some time at first base there on Saturday, even trying to substitute her around.
Yeah, it seems like Katie Hutter, as you mentioned, didn't have a great series. Massaro had to step in as one of the options, has been in the lineup a lot. I think Gardner was kind of trying to ride with her as long as possible, see if she could pick it up at the plate. Just really didn't, batting below 200 on the year. And Delaney Davis is batting 318 in her 22 at bats, as you mentioned, 6 for 6 as well with the walk off. She's a very clutch time hitter, I'd say. Doesn't seem to shrink away from the opponent. She's pretty fast as well, a good defender, as we saw this weekend as well. She's an all-around player. There's a reason she was a starter almost all of last season. I think she's going to be, like Massaro was, she's going to be in the lineup until she proves that she starts to fall off again, or proves that somebody needs to be in the lineup ahead of her. I am a little bit questioning why Ava McKee still is in the lineup. You have Hannah Massaro hasn't played great, but she's batting 185. Ava McKee's played, I think it's 5 straight games now, maybe 6, maybe more, 26 at bats, and she's only batting 154. And coming into the weekend, she was batting 050. So it's still a little bit puzzling to me on why she still gets put in at the DH spot, filling in for Kaufman. I understand when Kaufman comes back, the order gets a massive boost, and you don't have to have her in there. But, maybe I'd rather see Hannah Massaro in that spot, and you gain somebody that can field as well over McKee, possibly. That might change this coming weekend. Maybe that's something you experiment with in non-conference play. Yeah,
we'll see. Massaro also brings that speed aspect. We've seen her 4 stolen bases on the year, 4 for 4. So that's another aspect that she kind of brings. But the pitching has really been the big improvement, especially Mackenzie Krafschick, down to a 3.6 ERA after obviously a tough schedule that this team faced early on, and she's really kind of rebounded off of that and put up some stellar performances. 6 innings, no earned runs against Kent State on Friday in Game 1, and before that she had, through a complete game, 7 innings of only 1 earned run against Green Bay in her start in Game 1 in that series, and then she threw inning and a third scoreless in Game 2 on Friday, and then 3 1/3 of 2 earned runs on Saturday. So she's really been carrying a lot of the weight for this pitching staff that has really seen a ton of improvement lately in these past couple weeks.
Yeah, I'd say probably been the best pitcher this week, considering Scarlett Anderson had limited time in her outings, didn't pitch too long in her 2 outings this weekend, didn't pitch too great either. I would also argue that Morgan Beckham pitched better than Scarlett Anderson, gave up only 3 earned runs in her 2 appearances against Kent State, gave up none in her inning and a third of work against Green Bay as well, so she pitched great over the weekend. 10 total innings pitched, 3 earned runs given up on 11 hits, a couple of strikeouts, a couple of walks as well. Henry, we came into the weekend looking for that third starter, I think we've kind of found it, especially if Scarlett Anderson gets back to the way that she was coming into conference play and through Buffalo as well. You had Beckham at a 10 ERA, now sitting at a 7 ERA, which 7 ERA still sounds bad, but it's quite the improvement considering how well she pitched. She's got great stuff, probably the best stuff that I see from the Falcons, rivaling in on Krafschick. She throws harder than Krafschick as well. You get her moving, you get Scarlett Anderson to pitch the way she's been doing. Mackenzie Krafschick continues to get better. This is 3 pitcher rotation is one that Coach Gardner's used to working with. She's used to working with limited pitching staffs. Also in softball, quite different than baseball in the amount of arms that you need. You could ride through a lot of weekends with only those 3. I don't see any problem with doing that either, especially if you're winning.
Yeah, 10 total innings for Beckham, and then only 1 outing where she allowed runs, 5 innings, 3 earned in Game 2 out of 3 against Kent State. And then, she had a kind of a rough moment where in the Saturday game where got into the 7th. They were leading 9-4, and she gave up 3 there, and that 7th kind of made it a little bit of a nervous moment for BG, but she pulled it out. And I mean, you mentioned how good her stuff is, her fastball velocity and her off speed. That really complements that well. And I think you look at a player like this who's struggled early on after having so much success in high school, like a lot of these players have, and it's obviously an adjustment. And she's really starting to make that adjustment. And in a couple years, I think we're looking at a serious ace level arm. In terms of if she decides to stay with BG.
If she throws like this in her freshman season and being the third option even on this team, I don't see why next year she couldn't really step up into that spot and compete for the A spot. I mean, she's got great stuff, and like we've talked about with Halleck a couple of times, Gardner is a pitching coach. She knows how to get the best out of her pitchers, and we're seeing that quite effectively. That even at the start of the season, struggled again against not a difficult non-conference competition, but struggled nonetheless, and now she's really settled in. And her and Krafchick did so well at working out of trouble as well. A couple of times they had runners at second and third, runners at the corners, bases loaded, and they were able to get out of the inning, especially Beckham getting put into tough situations and getting out of it, and then putting together a great outing herself in the 5 innings on Friday and her 3 2/3 on Saturday. Just so impressed with all around the team. I mean, there isn't really an aspect on the whole weekend that you could say was poor. You could say the fielding on Saturday alone was poor, and I guess that extends to the whole weekend. But, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find something that went wrong. I think coaching decisions were great. I think the pitching was great. The hitting was great. And you're being rewarded for that. You're 4-2 in the MAC now, and actually in the same place as BGSU baseball when it comes to the MAC standings.
No, I think that the weekend, and in particular the kind of improvements that you both touched on, have been cause for nothing but optimism, especially not to beat a dead horse. But in the context of the team that we're all way too familiar with from last year, you look at last year, and they had...
too familiar is the right word as well.
Six wins overall. You're up to 4 conference wins on this year already, and it's early. I mean, enough said right there, I think. How well do you think this weekend and what we've seen from them so far can be used as a barometer to, really evaluate where the team's at? The reason I ask being, you look at the competition they've played so far, strong weekend with maybe a couple hiccups or question marks against Kent, who's currently bottom of the MAC, not much better in the non-conference.
You mean Buffalo?
Or the most recent weekend?
The most recent weekend that they played this weekend was Kent State. I don't know whether you're referring to Buffalo. I would say that analysis goes for Buffalo as well. That there was a couple of bumps in the road, and Gardner said actually after the Kent State game that she felt like they could have taken 2 more wins against Buffalo, which we're talking completely different about the way this season has gone. I mean, not too much, but you could have very well been at 6 wins. I get your point. I don't think Kent State's a good barometer. I think you have to look to next week. Ball State is the number 3 team in the MAC right now. They're 4-2, have the best player, and I believe it's Michaela Timmons, something like that. Rumor has it she got injured. Don't know exactly if she's going to play against Bowling Green, but they are a top 3 team, predicted to be a top 3 team, so it's not like they're going on a Linsanity run. They're going to come into town. You're going to get them at home. One of the better teams. I think that's going to be the barometer there. If you're able to take a win, maybe 2, against Ball State, you're talking about a team that can seriously compete for something. And Henry, you can disagree, but I think they believe that they can.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You look at, I mean, you mentioned the records of these 2 teams that they played the first couple of weeks. Buffalo got swept this last week, so their only 2 MAC wins came against BG in that series 2 weeks ago, and then Kent State has struggled mightily 0-6 early on here in MAC play, and they're 7-22 overall. So, you have to look at that, and then, like you mentioned, Ball State's going to be a good barometer because they were one of the favorites coming into this year behind Ohio and Miami. They're 4-2 right now, and Timmons is going to be a player that you're going to watch. But another thing to watch is if she doesn't end up playing, this team is a lot weaker because Timmons, I mean, OPS over 1,800, hitting near 500.
Yeah,
this far
the
into
fact
the year.
that she's still in the MAC is.
Yeah,
I think you said it yesterday. Like, leave the MAC. What are you doing?
Yeah, she is a bit too good. She's a bit too good for the conference.
She's fantastic, but yeah, I mean, you get to everybody else, and it's a little bit weaker. Still not a weak team. Their pitching and their batting is still very, very consistent. They've got looks like 4 girls plus of 300, north of 300, with Michaela Timmons at the top, playing pretty good catcher position as well. I mean, we looked at the fielding the other day. She's hosing at allowing only like 30% on stolen bases, which is unbelievable. You want to be at the 800 mark if you're an offense. So, she's been great. The pitching staff has been very good. Ella Whitney is sitting at a 2 ERA right now. Their second option, Brianna Severino, at 5.3 and pretty good batting average against. I mean, it looks like they have a couple of good pitchers. Looks like they got a pretty good order. And to be honest, statistically, Henry, might sound crazy to say, I think they're a very comparable team to how Bowling Green's been so far through conference play.
Yeah, well, I think we need to hit on just one thing, just regardless of the outcome of Ball State this weekend, just how much the team, just by sweeping a single MAC opponent, this team is overachieving this year. I mentioned how much they lost coming into last year and how kind of the culture has changed. And I mean, President Rodney Rogers, AD Derek Vandermeer were there Saturday for that sweep for a reason. There's
and now
change
Vice
coming
President of Athletic Strategy.
Yes, thank you, Tyler. Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of things are happening here. The team is 4-2 in MAC play for the first time since 2012. And we mentioned, the first MAC series sweep since April of 2022. So, any sort of success that this team finds is a lot more than we've seen recently for this program. And Michelle Gardner is really, instilling a big change in things overall.
I know it's early on in the season, still got a lot to go. How feasible is a MAC tournament appearance for this team this year?
Well, I mean,
you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that would be overachieving in a completely different level. It's not really expectations for me personally. I think that right now, statistically, the team is around the 8th to 9th mark in a lot of statistics, so I think that's probably where they'll end up in the standings as we get towards the end of the year. But, I mean, I think them slipping in at the 6th seed, assuming Cameron Kaufman comes back, assuming these pitchers continue to perform in the way that they have all year, it's possible. But, again, I'm not really going to sit here and say that it's going to happen 100% because I don't believe that.
And I mean, the roster for the most part seems to be the same as last year. I think there was one transfer added.
A lot of losses.
And then the freshman class.
I mean, you lost talent, and the freshman class has taken a step forward for sure, but you haven't added too much through that. Kendall Matthews and Hannah Massaro, probably the best 2 additions, but they're batting at the bottom of the order. Morgan Beckham, as we said, trying to battle her way into that 3rd pitching spot. So they've added a decent amount, but to take a limited amount of talent that you brought from last year to this year.
So outside of course, Gardner's effect in the overall shift in the record, what's been the biggest surprise roster-wise and performance-wise for the team?
It's been the whole top of the lineup. A lot of these players, Hannah Hunt, Taylor Barrett. Barrett hit 185 last year in 65 ABs. Hunt hit 195 last year in 41 ABs. I mean, that's where Payne Stevis hit 158 last year in 38 ABs. Katie Hutter hit 158. All those players are over 300 this year or close to 300. So that's where a lot of the offensive difference comes. And, I mean, whatever reason you want to give for that.
The only player I'd say that you can really compare to last year is Cam Kaufman because she started 40 games. She hit 230 last year. Now, granted, she's been injured the last couple, but she had 270 through a difficult non-conference play. So she had a 30-point batting average bump just from last year to this year in a more difficult schedule. I mean, I think if nothing else, that should show you. There's not a hitter on the team that's really hitting bad, and the only one you can make an argument for is Ashley Chevalier. She's a catcher that has to be in the lineup, understandably, and she's shown a little bit more offense at the last couple of games. You asked who's been, what'd you say, the most impressive or the most, like, the biggest standout?
Yeah, the biggest surprise from, I guess, your expectations before the season.
I think they knew they had Addie Martin, like maybe not to this level, but they knew that they had the player that we're seeing in Addie Martin right now. To me, the biggest surprise is Peyton Steffes. I know I was very high on her before the season started with her speed and her contact ability. She's got a decent amount of power as well, a high OPS. She's batting very well the last couple of games. I think she's going to sit in the batting 5th for a long time, and it's going to make it tough for Cam Kaufman to come back. I think Steffes would be mine, Henry.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the pitching. Also, Scarlett Anderson has 7.76 last year. Mackenzie Krafchick had a 6.09. Anderson only had 10 appearances. Krafchick only had 16 with 12 starts, and I mean, both of them are have more than cut their ERAs in half this year. So yeah, I mean that's where I would put it. And I love the power that this team has produced as really kind of been the thing that's put them over the top. 19 home runs this year. 10 of those have come from Addie Martin, and only 8 home runs last year for this entire team all season, and 6 of those came from Reagan Williamson, who is no longer on the team. Only 1 came from a player who returned this year.
Yeah, now you've over doubled it, the power. They're just fun to watch. I mean, I think that's just a way to say that, like, there was, I think, 130 people there officially registered attendance, over 300 people watching the weekend. If you showed up to a home BGSU softball match weekend last year, you would not even come close to that. You might be lucky to get 100 in the whole weekend.
Sorry, Ben.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I am still here, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking, who are some like the veterans on this team that are playing this year? Like some of the core players. Just name like a couple.
I mean, Scarlett Anderson has been here for 3 years.
It's difficult to say because there's a lot that have been around for a couple years, and
just
a lot
play.
that have impacted the game.
Yeah.
But like, think about like where they were just this time last year, where they could not even buy a win, and they just had 6 wins all season long, 6 wins,
6 wins total last year,
and they already have 10 total wins, 4-2 in MAC play, and you have a chance to get into the MAC tournament. It's still really early, but like just the change in culture and the change of like the team's mindset and the morale and like actually like, oh hey, we can actually like win games now. We can actually try and be competitive and like have fun doing it. Like I think that's pretty cool. And for people like Scott Anderson, like some of those players that were on the team last year, like that alone, this season's already a win. Like there's still plenty of season to go along, and still lots of games to be played. But like that alone is like, wow, this is like a respectful program again. Like we're not just going out and losing to every single team except Detroit Mercy. Like it's actually like fun again.
That's what hiring a veteran coach like that does. Gardner brings all this experience that he's had kind of rebuilding these programs and just brought it in this year. And I mean, she mentioned in post game yesterday that the team is, they're holding their heads high and they're feeling confident for the first time. And it seems like the first time in a lot of these players' careers in terms of playing at BG. So I mean, there's that also.
Yeah, it seems like she understands that the team was mismanaged last year. It seems like she knows that there could have been more done with the team and how they had last year, but she knows that there's good players on the team now and a couple of great players as well, I'd say, and they're just, I'd say just a step away from putting it all together. And I think I can't have a prediction for Ball State, like Tyler asked before. What's the level that we could see? Could we see a MAC tournament? I would be able to tell you after this week. I don't think that's too far removed because Ball State's a very good team, and if you're able to compete in any way, I think there's a chance. I think they proved that they can make something happen. Non-conference play was one thing. Buffalo was another thing. You didn't play well, but they had statement victories this weekend and very big ones, I'd say, for the program, and gave us a lot of hope.
I'm happy, too, that both spring sports are just doing good at this point because, like, my freshman year, both programs were not in the best spot. And you look at what baseball did last year, and then softball now seems to be finally coming out of that dark age they were in last year. Now they're both being competitive as well. So it's just good. It's good to see that both programs are not only just good, but also baseball's thriving, and hopefully softball's going to thrive here in a year or so.
I was going to say, you look at the track record for softball this season, I mean, obviously way better than last year, but still, certainly not to the level of, other teams where they want to be just yet. But even the one that sticks out to me, because I was watching it as it was happening and as we just barely couldn't come away with it, but that game against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That felt to me
that
so
was
different
one
from anything that I've seen since I started watching, which has been, loose.
Yeah, that was one that, looking back on it in hindsight, we had that game, we had a win after, and then we headed it into a very tough weekend where we didn't take a win. Actually, the first one where we didn't take a win. I think everybody forgot about that. I think Henry and I watching that game got an extreme amount of hope, considering it was kind of a precursor to Kravchik pitching well. She pitched very well in that game. The offense did some very nice things. They showed that they can compete with a top team. I mean, we reference it a lot, but we don't really talk about it or think about it, like how impressive that is to take the number 2 team in the nation, take them to extra innings. I mean, with the team that you had and the track record that you had, it's unbelievable.
And it's possible to even think, obviously, if you want to play the devil's advocate, that, these top teams might underestimate a MAC or group opponent. But, that doesn't change the fact to me at all that you can't just fluke into that situation.
I mean, they were throwing one of their top pitchers at the last 3 innings of the game. I know Henry knows that. She was Dyson when we were watching the game.
Yeah, that was the closest that Oklahoma's come to pretty much until this weekend, the closest they've came all year to losing. They swept multiple top 10, top 15 teams. They swept Arkansas, swept South Carolina, and they just lost their first game of the whole season. They're 26-1. They just lost one game to Missouri. So, I mean, if they would have pulled off that upset, first of all, it would have been probably the biggest upset in BGSU athletics history. And second of all, I mean, it's a team that was the back-to-back D1 national champions.
I mean, it was.
Did you say that'd be the biggest win in BGSU athletics history?
Biggest upset in terms
of
odds.
I think I agree with that.
Well, not the biggest win.
They
Not
can't.
the
Not
biggest
over
athletics.
1984.
Upset that win. Upset, yeah.
Upset, yes,
was amazing.
100%.
Yeah, it can't be
100%.
over 1984.
Yeah.
Though.
And like you could tell in that game, like they were once Oklahoma really started to dial in. They came out of the 8th inning, and I don't even think we got an out.
Yeah,
and their pitcher was dicing us the last couple of innings. We couldn't get a run in. A couple of things gone differently, and we could have ended up winning that game earlier on. But once the pitcher came in, I forgot her name. I think her last name was Landry. She just diced. I don't know what she's doing now. It was like disrespectfully good what she was doing to our hitters. You could tell there was a difference, but the fact that they were able to compete is amazing. You know, a moral victory for sure. Felt the same way about Bowling Green against Michigan State in the first half earlier in the season for men's basketball. Felt the same way about that you were in a game that you maybe shouldn't have been. It was
Too soon.
Yeah. Too soon?
Too
soon 3 months later?
You can take it a step farther back.
Season ended.
Well,
Even football
we could talk
at Penn
about it.
State,
Not
at
too
Texas
soon.
A&M,
Yeah.
Same
Football,
same
yeah.
vibes.
Actually, that's a very good comparison. Texas A&M or Penn State, you were what one play away, Connor Bazelak interception away from possibly winning the game, and we were a 3-run bomb in the 8th inning away from possibly winning. Wow, that was unnecessary, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
Natural sound effect. Wow.
Yeah,
My bad.
but that huge precursor, that Oklahoma game. Fun to watch. Fun to watch for sure.
Something you mentioned, Sam Landry was that pitcher you were talking about.
Sam Landry, that was her name.
She has a 1.04 ERA in 60 and a third innings this year. So
Against SEC competition.
yeah, that's a bit of a stud.
She was crazy. Yeah.
Lots of.
They kind of looked angry.
I mean, the
that we were even in that
fact
game.
though that you forced Oklahoma to pull someone like that out of their bullpen,
Yeah,
to beat,
that's-
to
exactly,
beat Bowling
yeah,
Green,
exactly. Yeah.
She stepped out and they were like, all right, who's this? I looked up her stats. I'm like, good Lord, this girl is like unbelievable. Why are they pitching her?
Yeah, pitching.
I mean, there were so many games in the non-conference schedule where it would be a tight game until like, you know, the 4th, 5th inning, and then they'd have to put one of their better pitchers in.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could tell they didn't start somebody great, and Bowling Green was in it, and they'd have to put one of their better pitchers in. That's why they came out.
This kind of feels like baseball last year, where baseball was picked to finish 7th out of 11, and everyone kind of underestimated them the first half of the season. It feels like with softball in non-conference and even in conference, I don't think people realize. I think people just think of the past 2 years and aren't, subconsciously aren't taking them as serious as they probably should be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's
understandably.
gonna, and I think it's going to be interesting once they hit the midway point, if they continue with the success, to see if it does get harder for them, if teams do start, playing harder against them because they know that they are a team that's rising up.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see against Ball State. I mean, there's no reason for Ball State to come in this weekend and think they can stomp on Bowling Green like they would have been able to last year. There's no reason to think that. They've played well. Kent State's not a great team. Buffalo's not a great team, but you had decisive victories over them. And, they put it all together, maybe able to take 2 this weekend, and then you're looking at them talking about what you need to do to make it to the MAC championship. It's a little bit of ways away, but, like I said, we'll be able to tell after this weekend. Very big one. Very big one.
Feels like a miracle after last season to be able to talk about this team like this at all.
They could lose out, and it'd already be a season win. Realistically.
2 more wins, and we double last year's win total.
Exactly. So...
That's wild.
It's just sad in retrospect.
I don't think
It's just so sad.
No, it is.
That's
It
not
is.
a ridiculous thing to say.
It is. Carl Smith actually was the one that said that. He was like, this is going to turn into, at the end of the season, it's either going to be a referendum on Candace or a benefit to Gardner. And we're going to have a massive discussion.
I think it's probably going to be both.
It is probably going to be a little bit
it feels
of both.
like both. It feels like a team that is resulting in one actually having competent coaching. And I think that's a double-edged sword.
And then you think about what last year's team could have done with the amount of talent they had. They had more talent, I would say, last year. And less production.
Like if you add Erilyn Nogue back onto this team and see
she didn't leave. Reagan Williamson was a great hitter that you almost wasted. Peyton Dulles was a very good player as well.
Yeah, it's probably the win total, and it's probably. I mean, like you mentioned, the roster hasn't changed, and it's players who were just so bad last year that have been really, really good this year, which kind of makes you wonder what was going on last year that makes things have changed so much.
And it's so tough to say because they didn't get like. It's tough to say if they were good last year and they just had bad production because of the coach, or they were bad last year and Gardner's making them good. Like, who's to say? Yeah. Because they did not play well last year. Like Hannah Hunt, Taylor Barrett. Chevalier was the best registered hitter out of any of the starters this year. Hitters. I mean, aside from Cam Kaufman. Just looking at it right now, a 207 average for Chevalier, who caught a decent amount of the year, moved in with Marty Hankel. Another one that maybe if you had a successful season might not have left, and you'd be had a lot better hitter now. Hankel is a very good hitter. So
regardless, definitely a lot of room for optimism. We'll hope to see some more of that come to fruition this upcoming week as the Falcons host Youngstown State on Wednesday at 2 p.m. and then they host Ball State this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Ben and Henry, we're going to have coverage of all of those. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think we've scheduled Ball State yet, but I'm sure we'll have broadcasts.
I think Wednesday is on Falcon Radio, I believe. For the is it WBGU, or do you know, Lucas?
Wednesday's on WBGU, doubleheader. Friday's TBD.
Nice.
Awesome.
But Ben and Henry will be at the forefront of all the coverage. So, yes,
let's
check it out.
Go.
As always, bgfalconmedia.com, as well as BG Falcon Media on YouTube and on Twitter X at BG_FMSN can keep you up to date on everything going on with all of BG Athletics. That's now the top of the hour, so we're going to take a step aside for some station identification. But we spoke a little bit on upsets, and so before we go to break, I'm going to throw a question out to you that we're going to discuss when we come back.
I'm excited.
What is, whether it was your team on the underdog end or the favorite end, what is the upset in sports that lingers the most to you? We're going to step away, and when we come back, we'll dive into that and much more BG action, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Zig Zone on WBGU 88.1 FM.
Hey, BGSU graduate Jason Jackson from the Miami Heat here. When I was a Falcon, there was BGRSO. Now it's Falcon Media Sports Network. Keep up with all BGSU sports news and action by following BG_FMSN on Twitter/X and check out BGFalconMedia.com. Hi, Ziggy.
Hey, it's Reese Patricus, and you're listening to WBGU 88.1 FM, home of the Falcon Media Sports Network.
Welcome back. We're here in the second hour of the Zig Zone, Falcon Media's flagship sports radio show. I'm Holden Ruck, your host once again from Falcon Media Sports Network, joined once again by Henry Costco, Tyler Kavelitz, Lucas Kleinmeyer, and Ben Korak. Before we stepped away for our station identification, I asked the room whether your team be on the winning side or the losing side or not one of your teams at all. What is the upset in sports that lingers the most with you? And it seems like Tyler seemed pretty confident in his answer. So if you want to start us off.
Yeah, so I mean, as a Cleveland sports fan, there's not many.
That's a great start.
There's not many upsets. Like
everybody left.
There's not many losing upsets because we're never really the favorites.
Yeah.
So the one upset that like I still remember vividly is 2021 wild card round Browns against the Steelers. When the Browns just demolished Ben Roethlisberger, made him cry on the bench after the game, won the wild card round, and then, you know, could have beat the Chiefs if they called a targeting against Rashard Higgins. But that's funny, you making that motion as a Bengals fan. That's funny. But like that's the one. I remember watching that and just like I couldn't believe what was happening. Like Ben Roethlisberger, a guy who has absolutely destroyed the Browns his entire career after going to college in Ohio and being an Ohio kid who played for the Steelers his whole career and only beat the Browns, to go up. I think we went 28-0 on him at one point. That is like the biggest upset in recent Cleveland sports memory, and I remember that so well. That is the best win of the Browns that I've ever experienced in my lifetime.
Henry, Lucas, Ben,
Yeah.
anything to match that?
Well, I'm an Ohio State football guy, obviously, since I'm from the bus. So, just 2017 is the year that I remember.
The
That was
C-bus.
That was really rough. Yeah, C-bus. Who was it? Is it you that doesn't like me calling it C-bus, Tyler?
I don't know. I feel like it's a thing that like only we can, if anyone else differs on this, I feel like it's only a Columbus thing.
If it was from the 1970s, Tyler would have liked it, but if it's from the 80s, he doesn't. So, move on.
I just feel like, I don't know.
That's a shame.
I don't think it's hit the national stage just yet. I think it probably will in the next decade or two. But
C-bus is always growing. I mean,
Yeah.
no one outside of Cleveland calls Cleveland the land. Is the thing.
that's not necessarily true. Like
Henry, just go on,
it
please.
really hit
Please,
in modern
Henry, go.
culture. In
I
the,
hate Cleveland.
in the finals, the year the Cavs won the finals, like that's when people started calling it. It was a Bone Thugs and Harmony song back in the 80s that called him the land first.
Who?
Bone Thugs and Harmony or whatever the hell.
I'm going to be completely
whatever the name
honest.
is.
Nobody outside of people from Cleveland call it the land. It's a stupid.
I mean,
jersey.
it's not. They call it a lot more inside Cleveland. I still have heard other people refer to it as the land, but a lot more inside Cleveland.
Well, okay. Anyway, my picks.
sorry
were
for the
just
sidetrack.
2017 season. Just first of all, the upset loss when Oklahoma came to town against Baker planted the flag on the logo. That one kind of hurt.
That one hurts. So
And
much
then
in the
and then
moment.
coming off of the win against number 2 Penn State, the loss by 30 to Iowa at Kinnick, that one really kind of just
That's a good one.
wasn't there a
demoralizing
Purdue loss around that time
that
too?
was a couple of years later. I
Yeah,
think
that
was-
one hurt too.
That one was bad too.
Yeah, the Iowa and Purdue back-to-back seasons was awful. I feel like Urban Meyer always had that one loss every season that you could not explain.
Yeah, and then the Michigan loss this year would have been a one if they didn't end up winning the Natty. But that one
that's
was
a good
really
one.
bad
That's
in
a
the
good one.
moment when they.
I mean, that
lost
might be the
one.
biggest point spread. The Purdue one is pretty bad.
The Purdue one would have been
I
worse.
think that the Iowa and Purdue games had the exact same feeling.
They really
It's just
did.
Like, there's no way this is happening. The
'Cause-
next thing you know, you're losing by 20 plus.
'Cause
It's like, oh my gosh.
The Iowa one sucked because they had the camera on the hospital the whole time.
Yeah, that was.
And it was just like
Oh, do I
everyone
feel
waving
bad?
as
Do I-
we lost by like 30.
Do I feel bad or what? Yeah, it was blackout both games.
Didn't
Both
they
games were
have someone
blackout.
with Purdue too? There was
Yeah,
like a kid
yeah.
with cancer that
Super
only
fan,
wanted to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler.
It happened twice.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, wow, we're the bad guys. Like, that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, that was tough mentally and morally as an Ohio State fan.
Yeah, that was mine for sure.
Other half of the studio. What do we got? What are we thinking? Ben looks like he's
Do you
having a
have
little
one?
bit of trouble.
I'm still thinking.
Those are both good ones. I don't know if I really have a true like upset where like, oh my gosh, the underdog, like I can't believe we won. I mean, I guess probably since Todd mentioned I'm a Bengals fan, probably the AFC Championship game where we beat Kansas City. I think that's probably what, because I still don't know how we won that, and I'm still kind of like, I still go back watching that. I'm like, that really did happen. It's kind of crazy. It's been a long time now, but I remember just watching that game. I just know, like, obviously deep down you hope you win. Like you have a feeling like, yeah, we're gonna win. But like, I forget who scored the opening drive touchdown for Kansas City that game, but it was just like a bomb that Mahomes threw, and I was like, all right, yeah, this is pretty much, this is how it's gonna end. We were down like 21-3, I think, during that game, and we came all the way back and tied it and somehow won. I don't know how. I still to this day do not know how. I remember like the ending sequence when Kansas City kicked it field goal go to overtime. Hendrickson sacked Mahomes and the ball was loose and the ball was on the ground. If we would have covered it, we would have won. And I just like screamed at my TV. It was like the best. That was like the best game ever. I saw my mom and dad like actually like be happy over football for once. And I don't know. It was like a really big day. I don't know. That was probably it. That was awesome.
There's a lot of losses to pick from in the Marvin Lewis era. I'm sure you could.
Oh, the
go through some pain there.
Steelers, the last Marvin Lewis Steelers loss. That's a good one, Henry.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I remember.
But mine's
that.
more positive. I'll stick with that one. That one makes me more happy. The Steelers one, yeah, I hated my life. That was terrible. That ended our franchise for like 6 years. That was the end of the Marvin Lewis era. That was so bad.
Does anyone that reminded me of the Browns the year we got Odell? Does anyone remember the Tennessee Titans loss?
Oh my god!
When Derrick Henry ran for like 200 yards and Baker threw for like 4 picks.
I've never seen one of my family functions vibes ruined so quickly.
That whole season, whole season was just like a downhill spiral the whole
Things
year.
are going to be different.
I can't tell you how excited I was. I bought like 3 shirts in the off season. We moved out a screen on the deck to watch that, and it was just the most depressing game ever.
Everyone's sitting outside, lovely weather, start of the season, nice September.
The Derrick Henry game.
We started throwing the football and not watching the game, I think, like in the middle of the second quarter.
Yeah, I think I turned it off in the second quarter.
Yeah, we had it on, but we just didn't pay attention.
Brown's gonna brown.
Ben still racking your
Yeah,
brain.
I'm still thinking.
He's like
Being a Detroit sports fan, they're all
As a
negative.
Michigan State
Let's be
football
honest.
fan, your answer
Yeah,
should be so easy.
But the problem is they went 12-2 that year. It's not an upset.
But they were.
It was
how
just
do you
a
mean that's not an
rivalry
upset? They were the underdog in the game.
barely.
But they were still the
They only
underdog.
had
That's an
one loss.
upset.
Both teams had one loss.
Do you know what an upset means?
I'm not gonna take
it. It can be an upset, but
I'm not gonna take it.
Do you know what the definition of an
I don't
upset
think
is?
I don't think that counts as an upset.
Anyway.
In my
So he doesn't
mind-
know what the definition of upset is.
Michigan was the
In my
underdog.
mind. In my
Michigan
mind.
was the clear underdog.
Were they?
Yeah.
In my mind, it's not.
I'm.
'cause they
Then
were
this
both-
is
Who
just
was ranked higher?
This is
Michigan was
revisionist
ranked
history
higher.
for me.
They were both very good teams.
What
Is
year
this
was that?
revisionist history for me or no?
Ben, is there
2017?
is there a
15,
hockey
2015.
is there a hockey win the Red Wings have that's kind of like big?
It was that long. Maybe that's why I don't remember. It was that long ago.
A comeback win?
Yeah.
Not really. I think back again negatively to 2009. The Red Wings had a 3-2 series lead against the Penguins in the Stanley Cup Finals. Said the kid came back 2 straight games and beat us. That was a rough
How
one.
old were you in 2009?
That was a rough one. Very young. Probably
4.
4 or 5. I remember watching it.
Wow.
Remember distinctly watching it.
Your first memory.
Yeah, pretty. One of them.
Watch the Red Wings lose.
Then the next one after, I was probably 5 or 6. Armando Galarraga almost had a perfect game blown by Jim Joyce. That's probably the biggest one.
He had a perfect
Yeah,
game.
He had a perfect game.
You're like 5 years old when
They
that
won't give it
happened.
to him.
Wasn't that like
I remember
2010?
watching the game. I swear.
I still feel bad for Jim
The
Joyce.
other one is the Tigers getting swept by the Giants and Pablo Sandoval and Buster Posey being the greatest players to ever touch the field of baseball.
Yeah.
See how they're all negative? That's the problem.
So
I mean,
just as
I would take Galarraga, I think, because he was not a good pitcher and he almost threw a perfect game. That was unfortunate.
As an interjection, Michigan State was ranked 7 and they were 6-0. Michigan was ranked 12 and they were 5-1.
Yeah. So
Then revisionist history somehow, huh?
But
Or
I
you
mean,
just
they're
didn't
both
remember.
top-
just didn't remember.
I
it is an upset. But
Maybe
I also
wasn't
get
it?
what he-
It was
I think
in-
was
it
there
was
something
in the
that
big house.
was there something that related to like Ohio State with that loss that Ohio State needed that to
Ohio
happen?
State won the Big Ten that year because
Is that why?
No,
Because
no. Michigan State won that year
No, Michigan State did win that
2015
year.
because they beat Iowa. Ohio
I
State
think it was
lost.
like the next year Michigan State won.
It's like a bunch of birds
gave
chirping.
Michigan a loss, and then Ohio State won because they were undefeated. I think that's what it was.
that was the year Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech, though. I'm pretty sure.
No, Virginia
We've
Tech-
lost
Virginia
everyone
Tech-
that's listening to the show.
The Virginia Tech
remember.
loss.
I'm glad
was
this turned to Ohio
2014.
State
That was
podcast
2014.
when none of us have ever. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Well, I have 2 answers.
Aren't you a Columbus Crew fan?
Yeah.
Die hard.
No Dolphins ones.
No, they don't really.
Die hard.
The,
Hypocrisy.
They don't get to big situations.
the ones,
How
yeah, the
tough
ones
to
I've
get
been
up
alive
to.
for, they've had some upsets, but it's like, do I really care that they beat the
Fair.
Patriots in Week 17? No, I
Ryan
don't.
Fitzpatrick magic. Fitzmagic.
You took the longest way of saying Fitzmagic.
So I've got 2. I've got a good one and a bad one. The good one, obviously, I have no affiliation beyond my grandpa went there back, way back when. 85 yards through the heart of the South was crazy. That was electric. Ohio State over number 1 Alabama in the inaugural college football playoff. That was sweet.
Yeah.
The one that lingers to me the most isn't the most dramatic upset of all time, but just based on my own personal evaluation, hype level, etc. Take us back to last October. We're sitting at 1-2, Bowling Green football, going into homecoming. I'm in the band. We're fired up. We competed with 2 nationally
Yeah.
ranked
Man.
teams and looked
That's a
good
good
on
one.
national television. And the winless
That's a very good
Old
one.
Dominion Monarchs
That is a very good one.
march into town
That's
and
a very
spoil
good one.
homecoming for the 2nd year in a row.
Yeah.
And we're standing there watching fireworks go off as 30-27 sits on the scoreboard.
What about, wasn't it EKU the year
EKU.
before?
Oh,
that
Todd,
That was 2 years
that was
ago.
our freshman year.
Yeah,
so that was 20,
that
was
one might
2022.
be.
That was my first ever non-Ohio State college football game.
What was the spread on
It was like
that
my
one?
second ever game, and it was 7 overtimes, and we lost.
It was
easy.
7 overtimes?
It was double. It was
Oh
2-point
my
conversions.
gosh, I
It
didn't
lasted
know
like
that.
4.5 hours.
That's
and we lost.
awful.
That's hype, though.
Yeah.
No, it was not hype.
It's against an FCS team. Dude.
What do we think? What do we think the line on that one was?
The EKU?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Bowling Green wasn't even in my mind when that game was happening.
Let's see. Let's see what ESPN tells us. ESPN tells us that the line was
22.5.
Do they not have the line? Oh, that's boring.
They might not.
That was before ESPN had ESPN bets. So
okay, well, win probability to
Good
begin
call.
that game was
92%.
Bowling Green 79.5%, which feels low.
That does feel kind of low.
For reference, BGSU minus 11 was BG versus Old Dominion.
That was bad.
That's rough.
That was
That was
bad.
not great.
still made a bowl game that year.
Honorable mention to the Lions losing to the Commanders. Probably.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I would say so if you guys just didn't have half your team injured, but I mean, I get it.
Still an upset.
Yeah, I get it.
Still should have won.
Is
what it is.
I do remember with the EQ though. I think we paid him $400,000 to $600,000 or something for that game.
Yeah.
And
the epitome of brutality.
Yeah, basically, that's one of the tougher Scott Leffler
Honorable
losses
mention
to explain.
First half of the Bowling Green U of M game too. That first half was electric.
And then you go into the second half with
in
Hayden.
the big house wearing my orange and brown. That shout out to Cam
you go
Orth,
Shout out
and he
Cam
doesn't
Orth.
remember the game.
You go into the second half with Hayden Timoshak as quarterback.
Who doesn't play football anymore.
Started as a tight end at Purdue
Doing his
and just
best
doesn't play
JJ
football anymore.
McCarthy impression, just handing
For
the
all
football
my
off.
money, this room was not going to remember his name, so props.
Yeah.
I called it, so I have to remember it.
Hayden Timashek, man.
Timoshak. Yeah.
We didn't even know on the broadcast how to pronounce
Didn't
his
he
name.
transfer to like Harvard or something?
I'm
pretty sure he doesn't play football anymore.
When he came into the game, none of us
he
knew
was
who
going to
he
be
was.
a tight end. Somebody told me that.
Because he was like
He was a tight end before.
He was like
He was a
quarterback
tight
four.
end converted.
To it.
He was
We
a
had no
tight end
idea.
for like Purdue or
he's
something
not,
converted.
He's not playing college anymore.
Shocking.
Well, that was certainly eventful. Spiraled a little bit beyond what we were talking about, but definitely some good and mostly bad memories to recount on there. We're going to move on because one of our sports that's a little bit out of season has been having a little play time, as I can see. Lucas getting ready to go, hopefully. So, Spring League soccer going on. Lucas, Henry, take me through it.
Ooh, Spring League.
What's happening?
Greatest competition ever created. To fill the void of my soccer heart of there not being games in the fall, playing the spring. It's spring. I mean, it's just a cool little preseason tournament for both teams you get a little bit of look at some of the transfers and see what to do next year. Women's soccer played this weekend, got a 2-0 win over Ashland at Cochran Stadium. And then men's soccer's in their second game of the College Spring League, and they tied 1-1 at Michigan State, then lost in the penalty kick shootout, so they didn't get the extra point. Michigan State got the extra point. Both good results. I think I can speak more with women's because obviously I went and watched the game. It's the same 4-3-3 Chris Fox was playing. A lot of it was pretty similar to what I saw in the fall.
Let's go.
It's kind of interesting because there was something like, because Henry and I will talk more about this too, but like there's no Gilmore. Like the players that graduate, Gilmore, Serwin are graduates, so they're gone from the team. So like 2 of your 3 best players are gone. Lucas transferred to North Alabama, so you have O'Malley and goal now full time. Atlanta Unkefer transferred as well, and she's not playing. Obviously, she's not starting or off the bench at all. So they had Lamparty, I believe it's her last name, playing as a center back next to Taylor Green. She looked really good. That was a big thing. That was new. That was exciting. That impressed me. But like a lot of it was kind of the same, slow, methodical. Couldn't really break down Ashland until the second half, and then Ashland kind of just like eventually cracked under pressure because they just got exhausted by just constant balls in behind. And then Lexi White got on the end of a cross and scored, and then Lauren Mahoney got a tap-in goal too, which is good. So it's good to see like the underclassmen still producing, but again, it was still kind of just the same slow kind of positional style play that against Ashland you kind of wish you won like 5-6-0, but I'd like to hear what Henry has to say about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't at the game like you were because I had softball to call at the very same time, but I mean, I was interested just to see how the transfers were performing just based on what I heard. Lamparty playing around the center back position and her playing well there is going to be big because you need someone to replace Gilmore in that position, and obviously you have Taylor Green, who you mentioned how well she kind of played in that game.
I think she might be.
I think
she might be the best player on the team now.
Yeah, I think so. And in that midfield trio that you mentioned, Hochstat, Mahoney, the incoming sophomore next year, and then
Butera.
Yeah, Butera, who's the main defensive midfielder which this sort of offense, or if you could call it offense, this sort of formation kind of runs through as the defensive midfielder, and that's what Butera did such a good job of last year. So like you mentioned, it's a lot of similar things what we see. You mentioned Massaretti as well, the transfer from Niagara, got some minutes there at the wing, and we kind of saw her play similar position to what we typically see from Stransky, Boltnick, these wingers who just kind of like to receive the crosses, don't typically move around too much, just receive and kick is kind of the method for them.
I mean, it is spring league though, so how often do you see teams actually unveil like a new system during the spring league?
Well, you have the new roster, so you want to give these players just a hint at what they're going to be playing when you get towards the fall. So it typically is what you're going to see in
I just wasn't sure because I know it's such a long time before like they actually nail stuff down for the season, whether that's an actual thing or if it's not surprising that they're still going with that for a little bit.
I mean, Fox isn't just going to completely change the formation that he came into. He got the job at BG because they knew he was going to run this sort of formation. He had success with it at Morehead State, obviously, so he's not just going to abandon it.
Does it look like the roster is more fit for it this year, though, or is it still kind of the sense
It's too early to tell. I mean, it's a scrimmage.
You can't tell against Ashland.
Yeah, you can't. I think they play Findlay on Friday night. Can't really tell with that, but Findlay also gave him a lot of trouble in the regular season, if you remember that, way back in August. Yeah. That was kind of crazy. They do play tougher competition like Pitt and Michigan too.
Is there a legitimate chance if he ends up getting his girls on the team that they end up getting a boost in scoring in some way?
Oh yeah, for sure. The thing is, you have to have players. This sort of system it asks players to kind of change the way they played in high school and the way they kind of marketed themselves to get recruited and fit into a system kind of like a lot of professional players are asked to. So you have to find players that are willing to change in order to commit themselves to the system and adapt their play style to the system.
I think we harped on it too a lot, but I think the main thing was wrong with it was it was great until the final third, until the final product. It was great from the back line and midfield until you got to the front three or the final third, and then it just fell apart. The worst part of it is you need to execute.
Yeah.
But you need Stransky to consistently score. Mazzaferro, I think it will also be big too. Transfer. Then Lily Babel, Lexi White, she comes off the bench again. But yeah, you need the offensive players to get on the end of those chances, and it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting part about it is a lot of American wingers, especially wingers and strikers, don't learn this kind of system at all when you're playing. You're extremely scoring oriented, and I think one thing that's interesting because it's such a European style formation is maybe bringing some European players over. Hochstadt has been a crucial part of the team, and she's a German player who played there a long time, and she's one that obviously likes Fox's system. That's why she transferred from Morehead State over here. So I think bringing in players who are maybe from Europe or players who play with that more kind of European mindset would be big for Fox, definitely, and we'll see that next couple of years.
I think it was big too, and we don't have an official report on this yet, and we will probably later this week, but there was no Bryn Gardner playing against Ashland.
Sitting out.
She was not playing, and she wasn't on the bench. She was in the stands, just in normal street clothes, just with her friends, not even just watching the game. So I don't know if she's on the roster. The roster's still not been updated yet. I don't want to speculate at all, but I don't. That'd be very weird if she's no longer with the team.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you mentioned, when was it you talked to her, or was it Brandon, our former beat, Brandon Lowe, talked to her, and she mentioned potentially, not really doing that. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, but there's don't want to speculate.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting because she wasn't in the portal. There was not any official announcement of her being in the portal. So either she was taking a break, or
it's spring league, so you can't.
Yeah,
I think I said on this show that she was one that I thought was going to transfer out because it seemed like she just didn't fit from
I find it really hard to believe that any striker or scoring forward would be happy.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe they will. Maybe I'm crazy, like you said.
I think winning fixes that all, but they didn't really win a ton.
Maybe, and maybe again, if they start winning, maybe they'll be happy with it. But as somebody that's job is to score, I can't imagine them being happy with not scoring, even if the team's winning.
No,
I don't know.
I think most of them. I
think you'd have to find a unique kind of player to be able to swallow their pride like that, especially one that's a scorer. We all know how scorers are.
I mean, Henry knows too. Like
every sport.
you can just tell like the morale like towards the end of last season was just like we're doing okay, but we're not really like playing up to the level that we can. Like we're not really scoring a lot, so it's kind of like hard to feel happy and feel because they scraped in the tournament barely. So
like you can't tell Marcus Johnson he's going to play a defensive game. You just can't.
I mean, you can,
but he's going to leave.
Well,
he is anyway.
Well,
segue.
But no, I mean
players have entered the portal and come back. That's
True.
the thing that happened with Sam Towns. Sam Towns entered the portal and came back, so that's happened.
Lexi can come back too.
But in all Holden though, I mean they looked fine. I think they can just get better. Interesting to see what they do against Finley.
And I mean the system has its benefits. It's a system that kind of relies on a lot of draws, a lot of 0-0 draws, which at the end it gets points. So it's not the floor of a team like this is a lot higher than a team that play a more traditional mindset. So and there's some strengths to it as well.
Yeah,
I mean. That makes sense. Where I'm having a little bit of trouble buying it is like you're raising the floor, but if you're playing fairly contingent on a lot of draws, the floor to ceiling's approximately 4'6".
It's not that like you're playing for a draw. It's built in a way that your defense is so compact, and you're not going to give up any chances, but you're not going to score any. So you're kind of just like.
So you're playing for draws.
Not playing for it. That's just what you're going to get. That's just the end result. It's just based not scoring and creating much chances. But I will say some of the chances they did create against Ashland were a lot better. Like they looked a lot smoother. Like they didn't come like so forced. It wasn't just so fractured in a way. It kind of like came by like, oh, like this was like actually like individual talent a little bit. So yeah, I think it was good. For the men's side though, I'm looking to see how the men's are looking too because they lost a lot of good players in their back line.
Yeah, men's had a result too this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to pivot to that, Holden?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Lucas.
Oh, boy, you're to me.
Are you ready to pivot? All right, Lucas.
All right, you ready to go? Yeah. I think for the men's side, I mean, we'll see. They play Michigan next Saturday, I want to say, at home, so it'll be good to see them in person as well, and obviously anybody can go and watch Spring League. It's completely free at Cochran Stadium. The biggest thing I think I want to see is the back line and who's in net. Reports are saying it is Jason Ball in goal, and he plays first full collegiate 90 minutes against Michigan State, which is cool. I have never seen Jason Ball play outside of Spring League last year, so I can't give you any insight on how he is, how he plays. I just know he went to Miamisburg High School, and he's going to be playing this summer for the Dayton Dutch Lions, and he's been the third stringer past couple years.
Generally you don't want Ball in your goal, but
that was a terrible. That was an absolute terrible joke.
Give him maybe a B for thought. I mean D for execution.
I didn't.
I get it because of
There's
Jason Ball.
Ball.
Wow, good one, Henry. Way to take a second.
Hilarious.
I think that was good.
I thought
that was good.
I'd give it a 7-8, probably.
I'd give it a B for Ball.
In all seriousness, though, do you feel optimism inspired after 90 minutes of Spring League? I mean, I know you can't make sweeping conclusions, but I do think seeing first game action at this level is big.
90 minutes against a decent Big Ten school, and you gave up one goal when you're in basically a meaningless preseason tournament game is pretty big for me. And someone who, I mean, he hasn't played games like in-game college soccer in over a year. Like, yeah, you play summer league, and that helps out, but you need reps. And so he's finally getting them now, which is good. It's going to be between him and Casper Madsen, the transfer they got from Angelina College in Texas, who I thought was going to be brought in to start, but it sounds like it's still an open competition between those two, and they both kind of been battling. He's played a little bit too, so we'll see who will get the starting goal. He's a redshirt freshman. He was like number one in JUCO and saves in the country. So I kind of want to see him as well. I kind of just want to see them both in person, see how they play, because Brendan Graves, they're both. Jason Ball is a much taller keeper. He's 6'3", I want to say. Madsen's about the same height as Graves, about 5'11", a little bit, maybe under 6 foot. Graves had a very good job of commanding the box. Good shot stopper, good with his feet. Madsen's all that. I don't know how good Jason Ball is with his feet because I again haven't seen him play. I know he's a really good shot stopper because he's got all the size and all the physical attributes you want in a goalkeeper.
Yeah, he can ball.
Sure is this what it's going to be like next season if he plays in goal?
Yes.
Yeah, get ready.
Oh gosh.
A lot of material, buddy.
I know. But I like to see that. Cusimano is
Can't wait to
huge.
see the Falcon Fanatic signs of that.
Oh, they're going to be great. I cannot wait. They're going to be great. Not having Cusimano anymore, I think people are going to realize how good he was. I mean, you lose the Mac Herman Trophy semifinalists, which is best player in the country for college soccer, for anyone who doesn't know that. And then someone who's played, I think, every single position besides goalie at his time in Bowling Green. And you need someone to replace the center of the back three. I don't know who it's going to be. Johan Araujo is on the roster anymore. And he was a guy that got over from France who didn't play at all due to personal reasons, and I'm not surprised he's no longer here. Rodrigo Silva graduated. Ozzy Cusimano's gone as well. Josh Erlinson, who was a 6-year, was here for 3 seasons, and the starter is gone as well. So you have Gus Peacock, who was the third defender on that back three, and that's it. Like returners, I mean, you have Amir Didic is coming back, but he's been hurt past couple years. Hopefully he can play. Don't know his pronunciation of his name, but he's a transfer from Robert Morris. His name's Tin Kusulap, I want to say is his name. He's a German defender. It's probably not right, and I'm probably butchering it. But he's a defender from Robert Morris. They won the Horizon League last year. He's left-footed. He can play as a left center back and play in the midfield as well. Assuming he's going to play in Cusimano's spot as well, but it's all maybes, and I haven't seen it in person. I just haven't seen how it looks. So that's my one big concern is I need to see how this back line and defense looks, because from the midfield on, you got Anthony Hernandez, you have Mats Christensen, hopefully he's going to come back. You have Rajko Bodurov, Jake Lane, Andrew Schaefer, Bennett Painter, Trace Terry coming off of you on your attack, and now you've experienced. They're going to be unbelievable in attack again next year. Defensively, I'm a little scared, though. They might score 5 goals, but they might give up 6. Hopefully they figure that out, and I think they'll be fine defensively when they figure it out, but we'll wait and see. I should also say, too, Bennett Painter scored the goal for BG against Michigan State. That's his second time he scored against Michigan State and East Lansing in the span of a year, so good for the now junior forward next year.
Yeah, I mean...
Did he paint another masterclass?
Not at Cochran Stadium. He did, but not at Cochran Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you already hit on it, but the big takeaway is just how the defense is going to look coming into next year, and that's kind of what we're looking at, especially in spring leagues, how they look against, these bigger teams. I think early results have looked fine, but as we get towards, regular season, obviously it's going to be a completely different story. So replacing Cusimano, replacing Erlinson, and then Graves also is a big one. I think we're going to see how much how good Graves really was, as you see kind of a younger goalkeeper, potentially the transfer that's coming in from I believe the school in Texas, where they had such a good year there. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see them adapt. But, I mean, Painter and Terry obviously are going to be the things that everyone's going to be watching. I'm excited to see them play in, another year after they had such an insane year last year.
And Terry coming back for his senior year, too, is also big after being drafted by the Seattle Sounders in MLS. But, that's just the biggest concern, Henry, like that, is just the back line. Because outside of Gus Peacock, you don't have any proven guys there to play. I mean, Amir Didic played his freshman year, but he hasn't played soccer really in a year and a half because he's been hurt. He's had surgery on a handful of times on his knee for his ACL story, which is going to make for a great story next year. But I mean, you don't have any proven guys.
Yeah, and I mean, one transfer, just I think we kind of hoped maybe they were going to bring in a couple more guys that might fill in that position. But.
Well, they do. They brought in the 2 guys, the 2 Brazilian defenders, because their new coach Gonzalo Carranza is Brazilian. Giovanni Soares, and I cannot for the life of me pronounce it. It's Caio Tacheto, I want to say, is it? But they brought in 2 Brazilian defenders, but they're also on their last year of eligibility, and they're both seniors and 5th years, so I don't know how much you're expecting of them to play.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see on that. Have they played anything in Spring League at all?
No idea.
Yeah.
No idea. So, I mean, we got to find out when they play Michigan at home, see how they do. But, I mean, the midfield attack is going to be amazing. If you have Andrew Schaefer and Jake Lane starting next year on the wings, and they can both interchange on the left and right, and they're both comfortable on their left and right foots, oh my goodness, it's going to be amazing. Even if Painter and Terry do half of what they did last year, and if Bodurov is the number 10 over Anaya, which is the only spot they need to fill offensively, and he takes another step forward sophomore year, they're going to score so many goals in the Valley, and it's going to be amazing.
I think it's really, really interesting to me because
to, I would say, probably the majority of people who've watched really any degree of the team last year, including myself, I think the perception does focus naturally around the flashiness, the goal scoring impact,
as it should.
Or Trace Terry, as it should. I mean, it's, points, goals win games, spoiler alert. But that back end and goalkeeping being shaken up so much, I think it's really, really close to, if not the most exciting, team to watch changing this year. I think there's just a lot going on.
I thought they were an absolute blast to not only cover last year, but to watch last year. They were so much fun up until when the season ended. But it's not even like they're losing, you're losing Graves and losing Kusama, you're losing all these minutes, but you're losing leaderships as well. Like, these were core guys that were part of championship teams from their freshman year, and you're losing them. They're graduating, they're moving on, and you just need to replace them. Now, Eric Nichols is getting an extension, and he's been here for, I want to say this is going to be either his 17th or 18th upcoming year. With BG, I've lost track, but he's almost on 2 decades of coaching this team, and this is what he does. He replaces these core guys, these successful guys, who goes and finds these other new core guys, and then they become really good, and then they go on, they graduate, and he gets some new guys. So they got a lot of freshmen coming in. So
it'll be his 17th season.
17th season, yeah. So 17th season. So this is what he's done. He's done this his entire time here. Is he's gotten guys, and he's got constant turnover, no matter if it's his own staff or it's the players on the field. And he's gone and he's found guys to replace their production on the field, but also replace their production and leadership as well. I'm interested to see the captains for next year. I would have to think it'd be Andrew Schaefer and Trace Terry, just because they're seniors. Probably might be Jason Ball too, if he's goal too. He was also very vocal. He's always a vocal guy on the team, even as a backup goalie last year. And you kind of need an underclassman captain as well. So it'd be interesting to see that. But, all good stuff. Good stuff looking ahead. I'm excited. Spring League. Yeah.
So what they got coming up next again? Either team, there's a home.
They're both home games. Friday for women's soccer, home 7 p.m. against Findlay at Cochran Stadium. And then men's soccer is home against Michigan on Saturday at 1 p.m. Let me double check that and make sure that time is correct. And it is.
And I'm sure we will have recaps on that.
No.
No? You're not recapping it?
Of course we will.
Of course we will. There we go. Moving on from the Spring League, not a lot of other sports in action, but some other sports have wrapped up. Recently, the gymnastics team finished their first season under first-year head coach Brittany Emmons, and it was a little bit of a tough finish to the season. They placed last overall at the MAC Championships, finishing their year overall a 4-13 record. None of those 4 wins came within the Mid-American Conference, 0-6 against conference opponents. As I said, last overall in the MAC Championships by over a point, which is really not a great margin. And they didn't have any outright wins on the season either. All of their 4 wins coming against one of the teams in a try or quad meet. So my question to the room, as non-heavy gymnastics watchers, what is your barometer? How do you evaluate a first-year head coach taking over? I mean, if you looked at softball, for example, and right now they were projecting the same as last year through the start of Coach Gardner's tenure, how would you be looking at that? I'll throw that to Ben and Henry especially, but I mean, feel free to chime in.
Are you asking about gymnastics?
Well, I'm asking about gymnastics. I'm framing it in the context of softball because their program's in a similar situation. Coaches let go.
Again, we're not all experts in gymnastics, so we won't hide it, but they finished the same record, 4-13 overall, as they did last year, and they still remained winless in MAC play. So I don't know how much improvements you've made in the meets. I mean, a lot of their losses in the meets this year came very close. I'm sure you guys can read the scores, but I mean, they were just by a point, points. I mean, they were very, very small. So
I don't believe that 1 year with a coach is a huge tell anyway. It's really tough to tell in 1 year. Is the person going to be maybe didn't reach the mark that they wanted?
I don't think it's fair
either.
They
didn't want to be 4th and 13, but I don't think it's fair to judge them based on 1 year. You give them 2 or 3 as you would for a head coach that inherits a good team. You give them a couple of years before you make a decision. That's just what I would say. I wouldn't imagine in gymnastics that there's a whole lot of roster shifting as well. And again, my gymnastics knowledge is limited, but I would imagine that might have something to do with it, that maybe the recruits that they had before aren't ones that the new head coach really wants, and maybe there's not too much of a availability to change. I mean, I don't think any of us are available to say, but.
No, I will say, just based on the knowledge that I do have, I find some optimism looking. The winner at the MAC championships was Central Michigan, and when Central Michigan was at the Stroh Center for a tri-meet earlier in the year, the margin of victory was not more than maybe 1.5 points, which, again, in gymnastics terms can be significant. That means, you're being beaten by a decent margin maybe, and, across every event. But at the same time, looking at the gaps of the field, they competed closer with the team that ended up winning the conference. And I think the first year head coach philosophy applies.
Yeah. Just for reference as well, they haven't finished with more than 4 wins since 2020. They won 2 conference games in 2022. Before that, it was 2019 before they won their last. So it's not like this is a horrible season for the program either. I mean, they're maintaining kind of
it's nothing worse than the
higher
status
level,
quo that has
I guess.
been,
I will say that there's some enjoyment just based on the buzz of their meets. I felt like it was happening more. I feel like when a meet at the Stroh Center was happening on a Sunday, it wasn't it wasn't like you just didn't know it even happened. I felt the buzz.
That is also true.
I felt I actually remember hearing about it. Obviously, we covered it a lot more in depth with Falcon Media Sports Network than we did in years prior, which is awesome. And then, but as well, the promotion of it, the marketing aspect of it, I feel like was a lot bigger this year. And I think that's awesome for the program.
Maybe it helps being in the Stroh instead of Anderson.
Yeah, it might be.
And
it might be.
That might be a reason for it as well. Maybe you just get a bigger arena, bigger stage, I guess.
Yeah. And that's also what Derek Vandermeer wants too. It's not only he's a marketer at heart. So he wants to market all sports and have there's things going on all the time. And if you can do it for gymnastics, you can do it for any sport. So good for him. And I'm good for the program too. Just getting that notoriety and getting more people in the stands and just getting more of that marketing across. Obviously results aren't the way you wanted it to go, but again, we mentioned some meets they barely lost. In some events too, they just came up just a little bit short. But that's always stuff you can fix with the coach, and it's just their first year, and I'm sure they'll develop those skills and work better towards next year.
And I think the thing that sticks out to me the most, again, as I think we're all fairly casual in the world of gymnastics in this room, but even so, both in the things that Coach Emmons had to say in her introductory press conference when she got hired, as well as just the vibe and energy around the team at the meets, you can see that there's positivity, there's good mindset. They're clearly enjoying what they're doing, and I think when you see a team that's just treading water and dragging in the mud, I don't think you tend to see nearly as much of that. And again, not to hammer the button again, but I have yet to be really shaken in a Derek Vandermeer hiring decision just yet. Yeah. So I think that.
Well, she agreed. She is also she's one of those that is yet to be a head coach.
Yeah.
She was an assistant at William and Mary, which also 2021 had 0. It was 0-5, and then 2023 and 2024 had 7 wins. So they had improvement over the 2 years she was there. Granted, not a head coach, but they had a season. They had a season that they were 0 for. So it can really go anywhere but up. It's kind of like what we were talking about with softball, that even if she comes in and wins 7 or 8 games out of 40, that's still a win compared to last year. So she comes out next year and wins 5 or 6. Again, it's too early. It's too early to tell. We were talking with soccer, first year, it's very tough to gauge.
I do agree. The last thought I have on the matter, looking at athletes, including some seniors, but also some varying classmen, Katrina Mendez, Ebelnick, Kira Thornton, Megan Bingham, all had strong showings at the MAC championships, and among them also setting bests on a variety of their events, the vault, floor, and bars, respectively. So even just seeing your athletes setting personal records throughout the season and for their careers seems to imply, improvement, or at least the groundwork to get there. So we don't have anything really more on that, as the gymnastics season is now over for them, pending any barring any surprise appearances at NCAA regionals for individual gymnasts, but best evaluation says probably not, as the best individual place was 4th at the MAC championships. Looking at another sport that's kind of in a transition because the indoor season is concluded, but the outdoor season is just on the cusp of getting into full swing. track and field started off their outdoor season specifically with a throwers competition at the University of Miami University, I should say, the one in Ohio, their Blizzard Buster event. There weren't any track performances for the team, but we did have several throwers there. In particular, Trista Fintel, a MAC champion and someone who's been really dominant in the throwing events, won the shot put event and was runner-up in the hammer throw with a lifetime personal best for her. So really strong stuff to start out her potentially last outdoor throwing season. And then Sierra Brinson is a freshman thrower on the team and won the discus throw and got third in the shot put. So 4 podium places, including 2 victories across the 3 throwing events. Pretty strong showing for them in the first outdoor competition for the track and field team. And the other notable details regarding the track and field team were, we would be remiss if we didn't mention a number of significant MAC awards from the indoor championships. It's already been discussed. The women's team were the MAC indoor champions for the first time in a long time, a long overdue championship for Lou Snelling, who's been at the helm for 15 years now. Head coach Lou Snelling was named the Women's Coach of the Year. Freshman distance runner Reese Riemann won the MAC's Freshman of the Year award honor. Riemann was also first-team All-MAC for being on the distance medley relay team that won the championship, just barely beating Toledo, which you have to love to see. Bianca Staples, Kylie Cubison, Reagan Campbell, Trista Fintel, Rachel Hoover, and Sabrina Imes were all named All-MAC athletes as well. And assistant coach Reggie Trotter received an Women's Assistant Coach of the Year honors. So pretty big sweep across the board. Maybe a little bit of validation for my perhaps too hasty cross-country takes in the fall. But regardless, track and field is at the best they've been in, I would say, quite a long time for BG.
Good for them. It's awesome. Good for the program. Good for all those awards. I mean, they felt like every week they were breaking a new program record or a MAC record. So I'm really happy to see them all get those awards. And here we go with outdoor.
Yeah, and it's always something to celebrate when one of the non-big ticket sports is able to do something impressive. Especially, I think everybody's aware of the difference oftentimes at being at a MAC program or competing in a smaller conference versus one of those power conferences. The resource allocation, the recruits, a lot of it's just going to look different. Yeah. And so to be able to be competitive and have success at any stage is a win worth celebrating and mentioning. As we've really moved through the active sports, we've got 2 more things to touch on, and they're both going to be brief. One's BG related and one's not. On the subject of BG, as we wrap up here, I want you to think back a little bit because we have the majority of our sports now for this school year are almost wrapped.
It's kind of
almost
crazy.
In the books. It's really gone fast. And so what I want to know is, of the sports that have concluded, just pick one, either your highest high or lowest low. I want to know the biggest exceeding of expectations, the biggest heartbreaking disappointment to each of you. And I'm sure there's absolutely going to be some homerism involved a little bit because, we naturally care a little more about the sports that we follow.
Is this the trivia question?
Oh, no, we're not. We're skipping over the trivia question for today. Just a little more
open
discussion.
Okay.
So,
I would say a program for me that exceed expectations. Oh boy, volleyball. Yeah. But I don't know if it's even exceeding. I mean, it's just what they do. I mean, they're always in the MAC championship.
It does feel like the status quo.
Yeah,
I don't
think they can have that. That's not right. That's it. I'm gonna go with my own. I'll go with men's soccer. I don't think they were gonna be. I knew they were gonna be good. I didn't know they were gonna be that good. Like MVC championship,
close, man.
And they were an own goal away in overtime to get an NCAA tournament. So they were really good. They probably exceeded my expectations a little bit. I would say most disappointing would be men's basketball, just as the sheer amount of injuries they had and just the way the season planned out. Very disappointing, and I'm disappointed for that coaching staff and how the season planned out. So that's for me.
Starting off most disappointing, I think it's men's basketball. I also think, like, if you want to go a specific thing, is that you only saw 6 games out of Sam Towns and Yusuf Kayat. That's pretty disappointing looking back on it. Most impressive, I mean, I don't know what expectations I had, but cross country, winning a MAC title, as Lucas does not like that answer. It
was indoor track, but
largely
the same pool.
The cross country track, I kind of group them together as
Understandably.
They are branded as the same thing. Volleyball is tough too because I mean, They are the only other team to win a MAC title, right, this year?
I feel like
so far,
from what we've seen from them,
it's
wanted more though.
Yeah, that's true. I think their run in the regular season was so good,
I don't think they're
though.
let down by any means. I just think it feels like no secret.
I don't know what other team exceeded though, because
Here's my thing.
Like football didn't get to where we wanted them to be.
Football could be a disappointment. You could say
that Miami game is a
I was
disappointment.
thinking about as a disappointment. The Miami game for sure was unfortunate. I would say volleyball, because you can't expect year in, year out to have one of the best seasons in program history. And that's what they had. They had arguably the, if not the second best season in program history.
I forgot about that.
You had 5 team members nominated for end of the year awards. You won a regular season MAC championship. You made it to a national championship game, not but a national championship game, which was beyond any expectations after you lost probably in the most disappointing game of the season. I would say losing to Western Michigan in the semifinal at home in the Stroh Center when you were the clear favorites to win it all, which was, that is my pick for the most disappointing. Then exceeding expectations is the entire season to go on the run that they did in the NIVC, and for Tomic to be able to light a fire under the rest of the team and watch him go is very, very fun. I'd say no bias. That would be my answer.
You know what a good underperforming one is? I feel like women's soccer underperformed.
I'd agree.
That could have been one.
Yeah.
Well,
but it was tough expectations,
I
though.
will reframe it to you. We're once again looking at a first-year head coach trying to implement some things that are fairly radically different, I would say, from his predecessor.
I just think
where expectations were.
If you look at the sustained success under Jimmy Walker, and I forget who the coach before Walker was, Matt Fannin. The sudden drop off, I think, was pretty drastic.
I mean, that could have been Henry's answer.
Yeah, what's Henry's answer?
Well, I was just going to say, just based on how the season and the women's basketball season ending and the way it did was pretty disappointing for me, especially considering this is the last kind of season of this general era, the Fleming-Velasco, duo that they had these past couple of years, and they had everyone healthy. They were really going at the end of the year after some, they weren't really meeting expectations, maybe halfway, towards as we started getting to MAC play, but they really started to find themselves towards the end. And I was really hoping for victory there in the MAC tournament, at least one, but we didn't end up getting it. The loss was in a really disappointing fashion with them blowing the lead, so that's just the one that kind of sticks in my mind.
In terms of exceeding expectations, and I won't say that I had a clear picture of what every team should realistically be doing going into the season, but I was really impressed down the stretch. Men's soccer had me fired up.
Yeah, it was fun.
They were a lot of fun. They win over Western Michigan at home, make a run in the MVC tournament. And,
favorite thing in my life.
I'm just going
to say this. You can take this whatever way you want, but there's a stigma that soccer is extremely, extremely boring here in the U.S. And
Talk to him, Henry.
I think you go to a BGSU men's soccer game, go to one last year, go to one this year, and you're going to see that
that's right, Henry.
It's a lot more exciting than people give it credit.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, Henry.
Turn me up. Give us respect.
I'll stand by that.
Turn me up,
Give
Henry.
us respect.
Notice you put the men's in front of that.
Oh, Ben.
Wow.
That was crazy. We'll move on.
I'm sorry. I still think generally soccer is a more boring sport than the other ones.
I will
no one asked for your opinion, Hockey Boy.
I do think Hockey Boy is crazy.
Hey, you want to know a team that actually really had expectations, met them, and I'm happy about hockey. Good for them.
True. I think they exceeded.
Did you mention the recruiting class thing, Ben?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
we
you should
talk about hockey
that real quick.
Volleyball. Yeah, hockey. Also, I want to mention Hayden Timashik currently is on the roster as an offensive lineman for Purdue.
A lineman?
At 6'8", 265. By the way, just want to throw that in there.
Talk about not knowing what to do with your career.
I know.
Wow.
We'll take a step back. Tight end to quarterback to offensive lineman. Crazy. Bowling Green hockey currently has the number 2 recruiting class in the NCAA. According to Neutral Zone In-Depth Amateur Scouting Coverage Rankings. They are number 2 behind Boston University. 15 commits to 13 for BU, averaging total stars 58.5, averaging about 4-star per recruit. I just looked through, and about 9 or 10 of their 15 are averaging 1 point per game in their junior career. I'm just saying no goaltenders being added. I think that's fine. Colmore. And they're at, or one goaltender being added. I'm sorry. Jacob Steinman is another one that's going to be a big look, I think, for Bowling Green. Noah Morneau's a name. Tanner Scott's a name. Ty Higgins is a name. Luke Foe, who is the younger brother of Brett Foe, is a name. Ty Higgins is not too far off from the other recruits this last season with Rowan Noranda Huskies and the QMJHL, which I believe is the Quebec Middle Junior Hockey League. 63 games played, 19 goals, 48 assists for 67 total points. And that's an average.
A lot to be excited about from that class, definitely. My disappointment was just because I'm too hopeful. I just wanted a bowl game win. Didn't even need, I would have been happy with a bowl game win. We ended Leffler ball in a Leffler kind of way, I fear. That's just the reality of it. And also, I need to backtrack before we go away, because what did you say are the measurables on Timashek there? What's he?
6'8", 265.
You're telling
I don't think he was 265 here.
Marcus Johnson is 6'7", 265.
But
There's no way that guy...
He's a junior. They could just be packing
both those numbers?
Well, they could just be packing weight on to try and hope that he'll be good enough.
I don't even Marcus Johnson is the shortest six. What do they list him at?
6'7", 265.
Yeah, he's not 6'7".
No, he's not.
He's 6'6", 6'5".
Timashek is not 6'8". He's probably 6'6".
He was tall, but
he was tall, but he made it look taller because he was skinnier. 265 is the crazy number.
That's crazy.
That is an unbelievable number. But he had all season to bulk up, so I
think they weighed him with the pads on.
Maybe
weighed him with the pads on.
Yeah, weighed him while he was lifting.
And the cleats.
I guess.
Yeah,
soaking wet. Last rapid fire. How toast is your bracket? Mine is extreme.
Not talking.
Toast.
Mine's good right now.
Hey,
I feel good. MSU.
Sparty over Duke still happening.
840.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. Sparty over Auburn.
There's only one perfect bracket left, and all I'm saying is, it's not me. That's all I'm saying.
I feel like I let myself down by putting Clemson Final Four.
I also had Clemson in the Final Four.
And then St. John's, I had Elite Eight.
I had St. John's.
My Final Four is still good. My Elite Eight only has one off, so I'm doing decent. This is the best year I've ever done a bracket.
This is my worst. I'm banking on the Natty.
I almost had a heart attack while calling baseball today and seeing that UConn was beating Florida with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, that was
I'm oh my god! Because who do you guys have winning? By the way,
Michigan State,
Duke.
I'm the only one here that has Florida. Wow.
Yeah, weirdo.
Boring.
Yeah,
wow. All right, we'll clip that up when Florida wins it. Thank you very much.
We definitely will.
Yeah, choose the favorite. Congratulations.
We will be coming back to this one.
So let's go around one more time. Florida, you had
Florida over.
I'd have to check. I think it was.
Hey Tyler,
over
we have
Duke.
to wrap.
Florida, Henry, who you got?
Duke, and they just won today. Let's go with Blue Devils.
Who we got, Lucas?
Oh, I have Duke.
Forgot Lucas was host of the show.
Tyler, already said.
I have Michigan State over Alabama.
I have Michigan State over Duke. So
not bad.
We will see what goes on with that. But that's going to wrap it up for us here on the Zig Zone. As always, be sure to check out BG Falcon Media on YouTube for rebroadcasts of this show, as well as any of our broadcasts of other sporting events and highlight packages from events, as well as some of our feature stories.
And press conferences.
And press conferences, too. Check out bgfalconmedia.com as well for recaps and more content from our sports coverage as well. That's going to do it for us here on the Zig Zone. For Henry Costco, Lucas Kleinmeyer, Ben Korak, and Tyler Kavlitz, I'm Holden Ruck. Good night, and I Ziggy.
This broadcast has been a Falcon Media Sports Network production. For more BGSU sports news and updates, follow Falcon Media Sports Network on Twitter X at BG_FMSN, BG Falcon Media on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and head over to BGFalconMedia.com.